Hey Boat Dragons, I'm so glad you're here with me today. I thought I'd talk about prequels. Do we need them? Do they add anything to the worlds that we enjoy? And I'll talk a little bit about books that I've enjoyed that are prequels and some upcoming prequels or prequels that have been released in the last year or two that I'm aware of, and kind of decide if I think it's necessary for me to read them. So we'll get going with that. If you have snacks or drinks that you want to enjoy, please go ahead and pause here and go get those. Let's go ahead and dive into the topic. There's a real risk with doing a prequel, in my opinion, because you have to find a healthy balance between self-aggrandizing and making it something that's just for you as an author, and making something that people actually want to read, something that adds to the world, something that makes sense to have in the world that you're creating. You have to really think hard about that if it's going to bring the customer value, right? And so I think that's a big challenge when it comes to prequels, because it has to make sense, it has to be worthwhile, something people actually want or have been asking for. And sometimes I don't know if we really wanted the prequels that we get. I think back to when I first saw the Star Wars prequels being announced and thinking to myself, okay, this is a cool idea. I don't know if we needed it, and we probably don't, but it'll be interesting to see the backstory, right? And then they didn't totally live up to the hype, at least for hardcore fans of the original trilogy. So it's really something that you have to write in a way that fits with the rest of your world. You're not making a whole lot of changes to the lore. You're just expanding on the lore and on the magic systems and things like that. So when I see prequels come out, I always think to myself, okay, did we need this? Why is the author writing this? And so let's look at a few examples of prequels that I enjoyed, that I think made sense, and then we'll look at some of the ones that are coming out or have come out recently, okay? So to start off with, I'm going to talk about The Magician's Nephew, which is technically, as far as release order, the last book in the Chronicles of Narnia. But it's actually a prequel. It's the beginning of Narnia. And I'm not really a big Narnia fan anymore for various reasons that I won't get into here. But I really did enjoy the darker tone and the heavy focus on magic and witchcraft that was in The Magician's Nephew compared to the rest of the series. It's very interesting the way it was written, because in a sense it didn't totally feel like Narnia, but as the story goes on it feels more and more like Narnia, and you see where it's going. And I think that's probably my favorite Narnia book, thinking back on it. And just quick side note, there's a movie of The Magician's Nephew coming out in November, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it, because we never got that in the original movies. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I won't ever read the books again, but I'm curious to see what they do with the movies in this new franchise. I think it's being put out by Netflix. But anyway, that will be something to see and see if it's really that enjoyable. All right, First King of Shannara. This is a prequel to the Sword of Shannara trilogy, and it was really neat to see how Terry Brooks developed a few of the characters that are in the Sword of Shannara trilogy in this prequel. And it fits well within the Shannara world. There's nothing in there that fans have not seen before. It's just, little Easter eggs here and there that we had seen when we read the original trilogy and didn't know they were Easter eggs, but now we're getting all this background on what led up to the Sword of Shannara. And I thought it was a really, really good prequel. I enjoyed it. I still have not read every book in the Shannara series, but I do plan to. And I really enjoyed my time reading First King of Shannara. I thought it was quite good. And I know it can be pronounced Shannara as well. That's how Terry pronounces it. I don't know. Old habits die hard. I grew up calling it Shannara. Bookshops and Bone Dust. I think this was a very necessary prequel. If he had not written it and I had not read it, maybe I wouldn't think it was absolutely necessary. But in hindsight, I think it was necessary. It gave us a neat glimpse into Val's background and where she came from and introduced some new characters, but the world still felt the same, really. And I thought it was a really good prequel. So I'm happy he wrote it, and I'm happy I read it, and I would read it again. It's that good. So I think in some senses, you can think of a prequel as a necessary part of the world because it gives you information that you didn't have before. And then, of course, there's Westeros, and we have tons of material and lore for Westeros. We have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. We have Fire and Blood, which takes place 1,000 years before Game of Thrones. So there's plenty of lore there that I think is necessary to the enjoyment of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think you necessarily have to read it, but if you're willing to read it, it adds so much more to the story. And George was really able to strike that balance between what he felt needed to be said about the series and what the fans want. Fire and Blood is the best history book I've ever read. So yes, I think it can work out the way the author wants it to. Sometimes prequels are necessary, or at least you realize they're necessary after the fact. But if they had never come out, would we have needed them? I don't know. And it's something I'm thinking about too as an author, because I'm writing a novella that is kind of a prequel to all of my stories. And it's in the early stages, but I'm trying to be very intentional along the way about making it something that makes sense to the reader and not just something to do because I want to do it, Even though you're your first audience when you're an author, right? You want to enjoy the worlds that you write, and I do. So it's something I'm thinking about, though. Is a prequel necessary? In this case, I would say yes, maybe, but maybe when people read it, they won't think it was necessary. I don't know. So let's move on from the things I liked to looking at some prequels that may or may not be absolutely necessary. And these are some prequels that have come out in the last couple of years or are coming, and we'll talk about them, okay? The first one, and I'm really excited for this one, Rising Thunder by Neil Shusterman. This is a prequel to the Scythe trilogy, and it will tell us the origins of the Scythedom and the origins of the Thunderhead. I won't talk much about the Thunderhead because I don't want to spoil it, but if you have read the Scythe books, you know about the Thunderhead and the Scythedom, and I'm really excited to see some of those origin stories. Now, did we need it? I don't know that we needed it. The Scythe trilogy is perfect just like it is, but I'm really curious about a lot of the things I found out in the Scythe trilogy, and I want to know more. And so I think a prequel in this case is warranted. And I think he's partly doing it because there's an adaptation in the works of the story as well. And so maybe he's going to give them extra lore to incorporate into that adaptation. I don't know exactly what's happening with that, but yeah, Rising Thunder comes out December 1st of this year, and I'm really excited about it. I still need to read the short story collection, Gleanings, but I'll get to that eventually. The next one is the Hunger Games prequels. The first one is A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the second one, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it follows Hamish, if I'm not mistaken. I am not interested. I have no need to read the prequels. I read the Hunger Games trilogy so long ago anyway that it makes me kind of care less about the prequels. Was it a cool story? Yes. I didn't care for the ending. And I don't know if I need to be back in the world of Panem. I really don't. But there are a lot of people that do enjoy the prequels, and that's great. I'm happy about that. And it was obviously written to appeal to hardcore fans of the series, and maybe those fans feel like it was necessary, and that's great. I'm really happy that they're out there. I just don't know if I even care to read them. The next one is the Book of Dust, and this is a prequel sequel series. I think the first one is just called the Book of Dust, or maybe that one is just called La Belle Sauvage. But I'm pretty sure that's the only book in the new trilogy that is a prequel. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, we're talking about His Dark Materials. My bad. This is a prequel series to His Dark Materials, although from what I understand, only the first book is a prequel, and then the other two are sequels. We're still following Lyra, from what I understand. And I loved His Dark Materials. I'm due for a reread on that one here at some point. I do want to reread it, but I'm curious to read the new books. I really liked Philip Pullman's writing. I liked the world that he built. I really enjoyed the adaptation on HBO. And so I think this could be a good series to read prequels for, or sequels more. Anyway, however it's written, I want to read more in the world. Was it necessary? Maybe, maybe not. You can let me know in the comments if you think it was absolutely necessary, but I've heard so many people talk about how much they love the new books, and so I'm excited to read them. And then there's a new Bond book coming out, or maybe it's already come out. Yeah, I think it's already come out, from Anthony Horowitz. And I've read one book of Anthony Horowitz before, a mystery novel he wrote. But this is a new Bond book, and it's called Forever and a Day. And the only Bond novel that I've actually read is Casino Royale, and it was fine. I would be very curious to see what Anthony Horowitz does with the character. I think it's going to tell how James Bond got his 00 status, which we've already explored in Casino Royale. I don't know how I feel about it. This one I'm kind of mixed on, but we'll see. I may really enjoy it, and I may pick it up. So, all right, Hannibal Rising. That is the fourth book in the Hannibal Lecter series, and it's a prequel, from what I understand. It would make sense with the title, Hannibal Rising. And as I've gotten to know the character of Hannibal Lecter, I am very curious to see his origin story. I can't say on this one whether it was needed or not, because it's always been part of the series for me. It's a completed series, and this has always been book 4 in the series. So I guess it was needed. I guess I'll never know until I finish reading book 3, which I'm actually currently in the middle of right now. But I'm looking forward to reading this and completing the Hannibal Lecter series. But yeah, this is a prequel, and it depends on how big a fan you are of Hannibal Lecter as a character. I'm a little mixed on Hannibal Lecter, but I like him overall, and I am curious to read this. But let me know in the comments what you think. Is this something you're interested in reading? All right, and then we're going to get to the Dune universe. Now, the Dune universe is where it gets tricky for me. I read Dune and Dune Messiah and absolutely loved them. Necessary reading, in my opinion. I read Children of Dune, I didn't care for it, and I DNF got Emperor Dune. And then the prequels are written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, which I've heard really mixed stuff on. I've heard some people say it's great, I've heard other people say it's really meh, and I'm probably not going to bother with the prequels because I DNF'd the series at this point. I really only care about the first 2 Dune books. But I'm glad they're out there. There's a lot of mega fans of that universe that just want more. They want more, and they're fine with maybe a little bit less of a writing style in the newer books, just so they can have more Dune lore. So, in fact, that's what I've heard. If you're really into the lore, you won't care about who's writing it with that series. And, I mean, the lore is cool, but I also care about writing and character development and whether or not it's engaging. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if this is a series I should even bother with, the prequels. Dune is one I'm definitely on the fence with the prequels, but leaning more toward no. And then the first Druids of Shannara series by Terry Brooks. And the first book that's coming out, or maybe it's already come out, is Gallifile. And I think I will read this, just because I want to complete the series. But I also don't know if we needed it. Terry Brooks made a big deal when he wrote the Fall of Shannara series that he was done with Shannara. And now he's kind of coming back and writing other books. I'm not complaining. I love the world of Shannara. I love Terry Brooks. But I am a little bit concerned about how it's going to change because he is now co-writing books and eventually turning over the writing of the books to Delilah Dawson. I have never read Delilah Dawson. I have no idea what her writing style is like. I don't know if there's going to be a similar feel to the original world of Shannara once she starts writing it. I have no idea what to expect. I'm willing to give her a shot, by all means. I'm gonna read this book, I think. But I am a little bit concerned. You know, Terry Brooks is at a point where he's finished the core Shannara series. There's no reason that someone else has to come in and write in that world, because the story is done. But maybe it could take on a new life. I don't know. And I don't know if it's all going to be prequels or sequels. I have no idea. But these are prequels, and I'm very curious to see what it's like once I get to that point. Right now, I'm just focusing on finishing the core series in the order it was written, and then I'll go back and read some of the prequels and new stuff. So that's where I'm at. But I think I will read Gallifile at least and see what it's like. And then there's Dracul. This is a prequel to Dracula. And from what I understand, it's labeled an official prequel. It's written by Dacre Stoker, or Dacre Stoker, I'm not sure, or maybe it's Dacre Stoker. I have no idea how you pronounce that. And they've written a prequel. A couple of prequels, I think, or maybe a prequel and a sequel. I've heard interesting things about Dracul. Specifically, what's interesting to me is that Bram Stoker is a featured character in the story. That's only what I have heard, what I've read, and I don't know if it's exactly true or how that works, but I would be interested to at least try this prequel. I've heard mixed things, but I am curious because I really, really love Dracula, and I would be curious to see what the story would look like for a prequel. There's also Anno Dracula by Kim Newman. This is more of a Victorian style Dracula story. I think Queen Victoria actually plays a part in the story, so it's a historical exploration of the Dracula story, I think. I'm not sure if it is intended to be a reimagining of the world or if it's supposed to be part of the backstory of Dracula. I don't know how that works, but this is one I'm curious to try. Let me know in the comments if it's worth reading. And then the final one on here is the High Republic series, which is part of the Star Wars canon. Now, I have not read any of the Star Wars books except for the Dark Empire graphic novels, which was a sequel series to the original trilogy of movies. That's all I've read. I do intend to read other Star Wars books, but I've heard really mixed things on the High Republic series, and I don't know if we need to go back that far, to be honest. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but really only the movies and TV shows. I haven't really had a huge desire to read the books, although there are a few I'm interested in, but they're not high priorities. The High Republic series, I just don't know that we needed it. And that's just my opinion, maybe an unpopular one, but I'd be curious to what you think. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on all of the books that I've talked about in today's video. Let me know what you think, and if we needed the books, if you read any of them. Tell me some prequels that you would like to see that don't exist. I'd love to know that too. Maybe we could do a separate video on that. I don't know. Would you like to see a separate video on prequels that should exist? And I will leave you with that. I'm going to go finish my tea. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you want to watch more, there's some ideas here on the end screen. Until I talk to you again, make sure you read more books.